Well, hello there. You're watching the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. Time then to see what's making the headlines with the Daily Mirror columnist Kevin Maguire and the Telegraph's comment editor Annabel Denham. Welcome and great to see both of you. So let's take a look at the front pages then, shall we? Kicking off with the Daily Express, leading on Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch accusing the government of a cover-up over the collapse of a China spy trial. A claim by Dominic Cummings that China accessed highly classified information in the case is on the front of the Telegraph. Daily Mail also has that story with the headline, Chinese stole secrets from number 10 for years. The Eye reports a leaked memo has revealed a plan by the government to cut an affordable housing target. And The Guardian leads on the Chancellor's remarks that higher taxes on the wealthy will form part of next month's budget. Daily Mirror leads on Health Secretary Wes Streeting's vow to pursue a company linked to Baroness Michelle Mone for millions of pounds paid for defective PPE at the height of the COVID pandemic. Meanwhile, the Financial Times writes that top US financiers are sounding the alarm on lending standards. The Sun reflects on the one-year anniversary of One Direction star Liam Payne's death, reporting on a cleaner's claim that the singer could have been saved. And on the front of the Metro, a Polish woman who was thought missing for nearly 30 years has been found in her bedroom at her parents' home. So let's talk then to Kevin and Annabel, who've been reading the papers for us and seeing if any, like The Guardian, Kevin, managed to squeeze in the breaking news tonight, the release of these witness statements in connection with the China spying case.
They did. The only one in the first edition we've seen at the moment, those leading on China, I suspect will be rewriting their stories to take into account the release of those three statements from Matthew Collins. But the Guardian has it, doesn't lead on it, because leading on the budget and the economy, which we'll come to in a moment, I know. But they do say, on the third statement there describes China's intelligence service as highly capable, and they conduct large-scale espionage operations against the UK to advance Chinese state interests and harm the interests and security of the UK. That somehow seems not to have been sufficient for the CPS to bring prosecutions against the two people alleged to be spying. It's still incredibly murky. We saw those clashes in Prime Minister's questions. I thought Badenoch should have raised it. If I would have gone on the economy, which is a much bigger issue and relates directly to people more forcefully. But nevertheless, the Prime Minister was very firm in pushing her back, saying, look, the decision taken was nothing to do with ministers or special advisers. If that proves not to be the case, he'll be in deep trouble. Maybe he could say I was misinformed. If we found out that he was involved in it, then you can kind of say it's toast time. But I would have thought I think he knows what he's saying.
You could tell today that he was reading very carefully from his notes, and ministers have been treading. Of course, yes, and not much of it has been wrapped in legalese, but you just get the sense that they do not want at this stage to deny something which may later turn out to be true. But it's been a pretty extraordinary 24 hours when you consider that at PM's Q's today, Starmer, of course, saying that he would publish those three witness statements from the trial. But just yesterday, the government had briefed that those witness statements wouldn't be released. And then you had the meeting between Jonathan Powell, the National Security Advisor, and Whitehall officials, which ministers previously denied had happened, but then it transcribed it had happened, but then we're assured that they didn't discuss the evidence, which begs the question, what did they talk about? So just the more that we sort of dig into this affair, the murkier it seems to become.
This is so confusing to sit at home listening to be fair, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the basic bit is, I suppose, we've got a case that's brought under the Official Secrets Act, which dates back to German spying before World War I. There was a case in July 2024, a separate case which involved a team of Bulgarians found spying for Russia. And the Court of Appeal then defined what it was to break the Official Secrets Act. It meant a country which represents a current threat to the national security of the UK. And that is why the Crown Prosecution Service went back to the current government to get a new definition from them of what spying meant. And they said none of the additional witness statements obtained stated that China was a threat to national security at the time of the offence. So the Labour government effectively did not reiterate that China was a threat. So whose fault is that, that was not forthcoming?
I do remember Rishi Sunak's government went out of its way to say China should be dealt with as a challenge rather than an enemy, because some on the right, the Conservative Party, Ian Duncan Smith, always wanted that to be much stronger, and the then Prime Minister was resistant. Now, is it just diplomatically the Chinese spy...
Epoch-defining challenge was the quote, I think.
Yeah, the Chinese spy on the UK spies on China. Everybody just seems to spy on everybody else. But somehow at the same time, governments, when they're in power, whether it's Starmer or Sunak, want to maintain relations with China, however difficult, because I think they're the fifth biggest trading partner of the UK, heavily dependent on them. They are a superpower. And this is where it gets all murky.
But I do think there's an important distinction between challenge, threat and enemy. And Tom Tugendhat, the former Conservative minister, used the term threat. The chief of MI5 has used the term threat. Dominic Cummings has used the term threat. I mean, this is not a word that we didn't hear in the previous...
But of course, because it's the law, the alleged offences. I know Kemi Badenoch just dropped the allegations and just said it was spying using parliamentary privilege. We have to say the alleged allegations.
Well, she said the case of spying.
Yeah,
she used the word the case.
Because they're denied. It's as the law applied at the time. It's rather if you were speeding along in your car, going along in your car in 2023, it's whatever the speed limit is then. If somebody brings a case in 2025, they can't just say it's a new speed limit, we're going to apply that. It's the same here in the spy case.
But that begs the question, why did the CPS
it's what the law was.
The government for this evidence?
Because of the Bulgarian case and the redefining of what it means to fall under the official... But the problem is, the third of these witness statements, as reported by our correspondent John Craig, seems to have lifted directly from the Labour manifesto, which I have here. We will cooperate where we can, compete where we need to, and challenge where we must in their relations with China. So the third witness statement, which went to the CPS, is that.
Yeah, but that's the current position of the Foreign Office, is how it's expressed, because there's a new government.
So what are you saying, that the CPS was wrong to ask for a redefining moment from this government?
I think they should have used what they had in 2023 at the time.
But you couldn't, because of this Bulgarian case, which redefined...
Well, if that is crucial, then your case collapses. Then your case collapses, doesn't it? Because there's been a court case which has changed it.
But Keir Starmer has, of course, said today that he's disappointed that the case had collapsed, and he would have liked to have seen it be advanced by the CPS, which slightly contradicts Labour's softening in their position towards, China. Why is it?
Well, I think it's a blame game. Everybody's blaming everybody else, is the truth. The CPS, the government of the day, the past government of the day, the opposition, the Lib Dems can get involved too, and it's free here. Everybody's blaming everybody else. Well, and we're not. And it's like a blancmange, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I think if you're sitting at home, you've absolutely no idea who to believe in this or how to weave your way through it. But hopefully the Parliamentary Intelligence Committee, which sits, I think, behind doors, does it not, can unpick this properly.
Yeah, well, I'd quite like to see Matthew Collins before.
Open.
No, and here, Exhibit 1, Exhibit 2, Exhibit 3.
Yeah. Well, let's go to Dominic Cummings, who made some extraordinary allegations today that China stole secrets in a major hack. Vast amounts of sensitive information, including intelligence briefings, was penetrated by China in 2020. And he said he was being told this with Boris Johnson. So anyway, what's this latest story about them?
Yes, well, Boris Johnson's erstwhile advisor, a very divisive figure, it's worth mentioning, has made this claim that the communist superpower China stole vast amounts of material, including some with the highest security classification. And he is questioning why it is that so many at the top were aware of this, and yet it was covered up, it hasn't been disclosed. And, were one to follow his logic, insofar as that's possible, the assumption would be that the Cabinet Office wanted to conceal, ultimately, its incompetence in the way that it has allowed China to get away with that hack. But, of course, with all of this in mind, it then raises fresh questions over why it was that the government didn't designate Beijing as a national security threat to the UK in the spy case.
Yes, and the Cabinet Office has firmly rejected Dominic Cummings' claim that China breached high-level systems used to transfer the most sensitive government information. So they've roundly sat on that. It is untrue to claim that the systems we use to transfer the most sensitive government information have been compromised, a spokesperson said. So there we are.
Not helping to shed any light on this, I would just suggest the Cabinet Office would say that, wouldn't they?
Yes.
Because they would cover up themselves if they'd made a mistake. But also Dominic Cummings himself, I found on COVID and Boris Johnson, was often an unreliable witness, I would say, and couldn't back up whatever he said.
But the whole fundamental part of this is that China is a very important trading partner with nearly everybody in the world, which takes us to The Guardian. And what most people sort of really are focused on now, in over a month's time, we have a budget. She spoke to Sam Coates, our deputy political editor, saying that tax rises and spending cuts. The Guardian now has caught up with her in Washington. The question is now, what are we expecting if wealth taxes come in some form, Annabel?
Well, there's been pitch rolling for weeks, hasn't there? And it won't have been helped by the fact that Rachel Reeves decided to delay the budget to November the 26th, all of that, the uncertainty that brings and speculation over which taxes may be raised. But she's now talking about hiking them on what she describes as the wealthy and combining that with possible spending cuts. Well, we all know how that went when Labour tried to reform welfare and personal independence payments at the beginning of the summer. They ultimately couldn't get it over the line. So whilst she may talk a talk on trimming back the state, I think most people will be expecting that it is the private sector, that is the taxpayer who's going to bear the burden. And again, the Chancellor will talk about those with the broadest shoulders taking on a heavier burden. But we shouldn't forget that the top 0.1% of earners pay nearly 6% of income tax. The top 1% pay 29% of income tax.
Very unequal country, aren't we? Some people earn a lot and are very wealthy, and then, was it 40 families have as much wealth as the bottom half of the 50% of the population?
Well, the bottom half pay 9.5% of all income tax.
It's very interesting.
They pay more than their fair share.
In this interview with Heather Stewart, after hers with Sam Coates, she's very, very punchy, because she's talking, and she will have the Office for Budget Responsibility first draft on the figures, the state of the economy at the moment. And she's talking about how last year, when we announced things like the non-DOMs, VAT
on schools
and private equity, there was so much bleating that it wasn't going to raise the money, that people would leave. Now, she's suggesting, I think, that actually loads of private schools haven't closed, the money's come in, and loads of people haven't left the country. We'll have to wait and see when we get the full OBR report, because she might be pitch rolling, you're quite right, and misrepresenting it. I don't deny that. But that is very, very punchy, because she's saying, in the past, we've had all this scaremongering and bleating. I suspect she means from the Daily Telegraph, amongst other papers.
Right.
And it hasn't actually happened.
Last year, we had the second highest excess of millionaires from the UK of any country in the world. Around 16,500 millionaires expected to leave the UK this year as a direct consequence of policies brought in by the Labour government. There is a wealth of evidence to show that people are extremely sensitive.
We'll see. She's challenging that, whether it's on solid foundations. We'll see.
For those millionaires and others, perhaps, asked whether higher taxes on the wealthy would feature, the Chancellor said it would be part of the story. So we go ... at that, and we'll read into page 2 with interest, I think. Anyway, lots more still to come in the next part of our programme. The Health Secretary pledging to go after hundreds of millions of pounds from a PPE company linked to Baroness Bone. Back in a moment.
First Minister, how are you?
Good morning. Good morning.
Nice to see you. How are you feeling?
Looking forward to getting into the parliamentary chamber.
Are you any further forward to making a decision?
No, it's an important day today.
All of the claims were in line with my parliamentary duties, so I'm making that clear to you, Conor.
He was a Scot through and through.
He was a very good politician.
Alex Salmond was controversial, he was a disruptor, but above all, he was respected.
Will you resign if you lose this week?
Again, I'm not planning to, of course, lose the vote of no confidence. I'm planning to win that vote of no confidence.
His face said it all.
My intention to stand down as party leader.
This is now a storm with deadly consequences.
How are they feeling?
They're a bit scared at the minute.
We've been told to evacuate.
How are you feeling?
Devastated.
Hundreds of homes were wiped out by flooding. I'm Connor Gillis, Sky's Scotland correspondent.
It was probably the darkest time in my life.
Scott is 5 years sober after a cocaine addiction left him close to death.
Scotland has a shameful record. Worse than England, the worst in Europe. Why not just say you failed? Because then you might get more respect from families who've lost loved ones.
This is where one of the UK's most prolific rapists thought he'd got away with murder.
Sky News can reveal that former sex workers had told police he was sexually violent.
My Emma.
Free wherever you get your news. It's over, isn't it?
The Americans say he is Rossi, a fraudster.
This has been one of the most bizarre cases ever heard in a courtroom in this country.
A dangerous murderer.
Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive Andrew Ennis after this?
She said she can forgive him, but as long as he's behind bars.
By doing the right thing, it's destroyed your life.
They terrorised me. They intimidated me.
I'm so grateful.
Sky News, the full story first.
What might happen if Russia attacked the UK?
This is clearly an enormous show of force.
It is definitely out of the ordinary.
We ran a war game with former ministers back in the hot seat.
Ben Wallace.
Amber Rudd.
Jack Straw.
It's the kind of war game that's genuinely tested inside government.
The Russians are signalling that there may be an attack.
Russia knows our weaknesses, but do you? I'm Deborah Haynes. From Sky News and Tortoise, this is The War Game. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Dominic Waghorn, Sky's International Affairs Editor, covering a world that seems to be unravelling.
It's not his country, it's ours.
Sky News, the full story first, free wherever you get your news. It's half an hour now past the deadline that Hamas issued, and we've now seen a third barrage of rockets coming in.
We arrive. A secret hospital hidden in the Myanmar jungle, treating the victims of this bloody war.
This is Myanmar today. Its military rulers don't want the world to see, but we have.
I fight for my own future. I fight for my generation's future.
This is an actual crime.
They don't care for that.
Myanmar army is only a couple of kilometers away.
So this is a major humanitarian disaster.
Well, welcome back. You're watching the press preview with me once again, Kevin Maguire and Annabel Denham. Let's go to the Daily Mirror, shall we? Annabel, why don't you kick off on this? This is Baroness Michelle Mone's linked company. Questions about what she said about that. But the point is the government wants the money back for what was ineffective or defective PPE equipment during COVID.
Yes, and I think it's quite easy to remember that mad scramble in March 2020 when we suddenly realised that we were woefully unprepared for this pandemic. And there was a complete fog and complete sense of discombobulation. Nobody knew how serious it was going to be. And the government was ultimately trying to procure PPE for health workers as quickly as it possibly could. And it was offered this deal, which was probably too good to be true. And now, is on the hook for all of this defective equipment. Wes Streeting is saying that he's owed £145 million for the dodgy kit that Baroness Mone, the company that she was linked to, PPE MedPro, her and her husband, gave to the government. And, I wish them the best of luck. Of course, they denied that the PPE was
Who do you wish the best of luck?
Yes,
absolutely, to Wes Streeting.
Just checking, checking.
Important to verify these things, Kevin. I wish them the best of luck clawing back that money, but it won't just be this one company.
Exactly,
where,
but are they being made an
others.
example of, do you think? Because it's a high-profile case and, she's in the House of Lords.
Well, I think they're after many, but yes, it was a very egregious example. There she was in the House of Lords, used her contacts and the VIP lane, lobbying ministers. You get the contract, the gowns don't pass safety tests. You deny any links to the company, you and your husband. It's in the Isle of Man. It seems to have very little money in its account now. But assets are being frozen. Tens of millions of their assets are being frozen. There's a National Crime Agency investigation. I think it's going to be the chase of the century, this, to get the money back. But Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, knows he has to go and go and go and go to do this. One, because it's taxpayers' money, it's the right thing to do. And two, it's hugely popular with the public to go for them, and third, politically, because she was a Tory peer. She was taking leave from the House of Lords, but she was David Cameron's glamorous pin-up peer.
OK, let's go to the Daily Telegraph, shall we? We know that Zelensky is heading to Washington on Friday. All the talk is whether or not Tomahawk cruise missiles will be added to the armoury. But in the meantime, Donald Trump is working to establish a Ukraine Victory Fund, which will be bankrolled by fresh tariffs on China.
Yes, so this strategy would introduce a 500% levy on imports from China, and the money that is brought in from that would be used on weapons for Ukraine's military. So you can only imagine how that will go down with the CCP. But I think what we're more broadly seeing here is Donald Trump taking a far more sensible position on Ukraine than we have seen over the last 10 months since he re-entered the White House. And, of course, you had that terrible meeting between Zelensky, Vance and Trump in the White House where they behaved disgracefully, the president and the vice president. But now he seems to have very much changed his tune. After that ceasefire in Gaza, he's talking about now let's bring peace to Ukraine, which arguably is a far less knotty problem.
Well, only tonight Donald Trump has said he's got the Indian leader, Narendra Modi, to stop buying Russian oil. The quote is, "So I was not happy that India was buying oil, and he assured me today that they will not be buying oil from Russia. That's a big step. Now we're going to get China to do the same thing." Yeah,
will they buy oil from somebody? And Russia sold it to that. I mean, look, Trump always wants victory after victory after victory. He's played by a lot of people. Now, if he imposes 500% tariffs on goods from China, he's going to hammer US consumers who are buying a lot of these goods cheaply. And also, I suspect his American firms won't be getting any rare earth minerals in the near future. Yeah. But linking Ukraine to tariffs allows him to bring all these policies together and get off the hook he put himself on, because it wasn't long ago that he was cuddling up to Putin, telling Zelensky, "You're a terrible person. You know, you've got to cede your land, and I want to pillage the rest of it and take all your minerals."
He encouraged Putin's aggression and emboldened him, and he's stepping back from that.
Well, that important story stopped us talking about conkers and Prince Louis, in fact. A connected tale. Have I got time to say one sentence? It could have been a smashing introduction to royal life for 7-year-old Prince Louis after hearing of his passion for stashing conkers. ... Run out of time. See you in a moment.
So he's just a normal boy on that, yeah. Or girl.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story.
I'm ready. Are you?
Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
I witnessed the complete destruction of a place linked to my childhood memories.
This is insane.
I'm Yusra Al-Bagher, Sky's Africa correspondent based in Johannesburg, South Africa. I felt awe when we saw the mountain gorillas in Rwanda.
They call him the king of the jungle. This is the alpha silverback.
Sky News. Get the full story first.